Hi you guys, welcome back to another episode here on Feather Nest Studios, where art and magic combine to create beautiful, beautiful miniatures. So if you are new here, please make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I am going to be taking you guys through the process of building a dollhouse from complete scratch. But not only am I just making a dollhouse, I am making the Spellman Mortuary Dollhouse, which is on the TV show on Netflix called Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Now, whether or not you've seen the show, definitely stick around because we are going to be doing some massive crafting today, and I'm really excited because I'm going to be building the herbal room from the Spellman show. So basically the herbal room is Hilda's baby, like where she grows all her magical plants. And I just think that this room is really exciting, even though it's really tiny in my project. Even though today we're not going to be doing the little plants, we are still in the construction phase of the dollhouse. And so I still want to make this entertaining for you guys, but the next few videos will be a lot of wallpaper, cutting out walls, making trims, and all that fun stuff. So, but either way, it's still really exciting because we're doing all different types of textures, color patterns, etc. And now I'm excited to get this party started, so let's get crafting. Hello you guys, so today I want to show you guys my Dollhouse notebook. So I highly recommend you start a notebook when you begin your project. And this is just so you can keep track of everything in one place, and it just makes things organized and easy to manage. Also upload everything into Google Sheets, and if you guys are curious about how I organize my project, let me know in the comments below and I will make a video on just that. But basically, to show you guys what I have going on, is first I have a section for my blueprints because I'm always going to be referring to these, and I put everything in protective sheets just so that, you know, throughout time they just don't get completely destroyed. So I have basically my blueprints on one side and then the walls that I created on the other side. And so I have the second and third floors, and this was actually my first drawing. I was trying to figure out how the actual layout of the house goes according to the show. But of course I realized that they usually don't shoot the actual film inside the house that they show on TV shows. So I scratched this and decided to go with a more open, easy to present dollhouse. And then I have a section for my wallpaper. And so we are going to be using this today because this is the wallpaper I found for the herbal room. And then we are also going to be using the kitchen wallpaper as well. And so I created this wallpaper just the same way I created the living room, or I guess the entranceway. How I created this one is how I created this one, where I took two images that were similar and they had what I wanted. So one was just the flowers, the other one was the diagonal lines, and then I overlaid them, and then I went ahead and blended them. And so if you're curious about that, make sure to go watch the other video so you can understand what I'm talking about. And then also I created this one, and I actually created this one myself from scratch, and when we get to this section I will explain to you guys how I did this. And then basically I'm keeping my a record of everything I've spent so far on the Spellman house. Basically I have spent way less than just buying a kit, so there's that. Anyway, I will break down more of that for you guys. Again, if you're more curious on how I organize my stuff, definitely let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's go ahead and get ready because today I am going to be creating the herbal room dollhouses. So I'm going to be using this wallpaper first, and we are going to be crafting out some wallpaper for at least one of the sides. We'll have that wallpaper, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but this one for sure. So this is the reference video that I'm using for today's project. I don't know if you guys can see in the background, but they have this geometrical wallpaper, and that is the wallpaper that I tried to create by putting another image into my app and then changing the color until I felt like it looked more like the Spellman household. And now I'm just using my normal method of taking glue and water and painting it onto the foam board to place the wallpaper on top of it. Now, when you do this, you might get crinkles, and once you put Modpodge over it, it basically eliminates all your crinkles and hardens the paper. So I don't get too worried if I do see a crinkle, but I did learn, you'll see later, that patience is a virtue with applying wallpaper. And then I just go ahead and measure out the 3 inches mark that I want to make sure the border goes on, so I can see that as I'm continuously putting down wallpaper. And that just kind of gives me a visual of where it's going to be to make sure the paper covers it. But I do measure out the bottom piece just in case. So I put that on top of the wallpaper, so it's okay if it goes past the line. I just want to make sure it at least reaches the line. And then I do that for all the different sizes. This is actually going to be sides. This is actually going to be for the kitchen. And this is the one I messed up on because I felt that it was too bubbled and I wasn't being patient enough with it. And then what I should have done looking back is just leave it and put Mod Podge on it. But instead I decided to try and fix it by ripping it up. And definitely not the best move, but in the end it turned out okay. So my next step in the project was preparing the side paneling, and if you look in the video you can see that it's this black and green checkered tile, or I guess not checkered, but laid out tile. And I didn't want to buy another piece of mat board just to get the black, so I decided to just use a marker to color it. And it definitely worked, but it did bleed a little bit, which you will see when I get to the cutting part of it. But because mat board has so many layers, it's okay to have a little bit of bleeding because you can just peel up those extra paper layers. And then to get the green effect, I just went ahead, before cutting it, I decided to just put splotches of green all over the different black panels. And this way it gives it a sprinkled green effect, but I don't have to worry about it getting in my cracks once I cut them out. And in order to get the realistic texture of the checkered tiles, whatever kind of tiles, I need to quit saying that because I'm really not sure the actual term because I've never studied this properly. So if anyone does architecture, I am so sorry for mispronouncing and misnaming everything. But basically, I'm cutting out the first layer of mat board paper. And if you want a more in-depth tutorial on how I do this, definitely check out my video on dollhouse floors. And that's where I make the floor for this room as well as the living room. But in that video, I go into this in so much more depth. But basically, it looks exactly as you're seeing. I'm using my X-Acto knife to just cut out the very first layer. And then I'm going back in and I'm getting out all the little places where the ink bled through. And again, it's really not that hard to get it up. It is a little bit of a hassle. The reason I didn't use paint is because I wasn't sure how the paint would take with me cutting it. I wasn't sure if I had a thick layer, if it would pull up paint or if it would make it harder for me to cut it, etc. So that's why I didn't paint it, but you could always try that too to see if that makes it a little bit easier. So check out my awesome coffee mug that my friend gave me for my birthday. Absolutely love it. My name is Raven. I love Raven stuff. I'll probably will hide some Raven stuff in my projects as like my signature. I don't know. We'll see. But I didn't show this on a video where the in-depth me putting on dollhouse walls. So I wanted to just show you guys my process. Always use wood glue for attaching walls. The only reason I'm using a little bit of hot glue is just to help it stay in place as the wood glue dries, but do not glue it with hot glue or Elmer's glue. You want the strong stuff. And so I would definitely say wood glue. It does really well with foam board. And in order to just prop my wall up, I use whatever I can. And so for this, I'm literally trying to move my chair to keep this wall up as it dries. It usually takes about 24 hours for it to like really bond, but honestly, after the first like 30 minutes to an hour, the walls are usually pretty strong. And so I'm doing that again with the second one, but I'm waiting on the third one just so I can really work with it in the kitchen. And of course I have to get that window in the little open area. So I'm just going to be gluing down 2 walls for now. But I wanted to show you guys the full process of how I do this. So if I skip that, which I believe I skipped that in one of the previous videos, I want to make sure you guys have a visual of it. So I finally got tired of working in my room and I wanted to watch some movies while I was working. So I decided to move my project out into the living room. And I guess I just wanted to show you guys my setup because it has been really fun being able to move it around and not have to worry about it. I'm pretty sure as I keep going though, this probably won't always be the answer. And now to set my project, I Mod Podge all the wallpaper that I have and I start painting this one side blue because in the video I found it looks like they do have one blue wall with the 2 geometrical walls on either side. And so that is how I'm going to do my project. But now I need to do the trimmings around it, so I am cutting out of a pizza box. And this is a great way to do any kind of trimming. There's so much trimming in a dollhouse. I mean, you have between the corners, around the doorways, around the windowsills. And this just makes it really cost efficient and also easy to work with because it's so easy to cut into thin chipboard. And now to do the inner part of the doorway, I cut out a sheet of paper and this just makes it easy to paint over that foam board. And because it's not long enough, I glued 2 pieces together and I just set those aside to dry while I finish out making the chipboard for the doorway. So once I get them cut out, I glue them down again because I want them to be double thick. I find that really helps. When it's just single layered, it does kind of look like you just glued paper on, but when you layer it, it gives it that extra depth that makes it believable to be wood. And you can also use popsicle sticks, but obviously if you have a rounded top, it's very hard to use popsicle sticks. So this is just a really easy way to make something semi-realistic, especially with the paint. So now I'm repeating the same process I did with the other border, only this time I'm just doing 1 line down to represent wood panels. And then I take the paper that I put aside and I glue that on to the inner part of the doorway, again, just to cover up the foam board and make it easier to paint. And for these wood pieces, I'm just starting off with a pretty, I guess a lighter brown than I normally use for the bottom piece, but I'm not really worried about there being a little bit of holes showing and a little bit of the white showing, just because I think that kind of adds to the wood look. And then I'm going in between each of the lines to give it a darker look by putting in darker brown paint between them. And that just really helps pop out the creases that I just made. And now I have a wooden panel. And now I'm painting I don't know why for the life of me, I cannot remember what it's called, and maybe it'll come back when I edit this, but I'm painting the top and bottom things to the border, and I'm painting the inside of the door. And I think they're called, what are they called? Rails, not rails. Why? I don't know why. I can't think of it. But you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the thing that goes at the top and the bottom of the thing I'm gluing right now. Oh man, I'm gonna have to learn architecture to do this. Okay, so I had to go Google it, and now I know that I am now putting on the wainscoting, and the top piece is called a trim, a batten, all different things, and the one that goes at the bottom is a baseboard, which I knew that one. But okay, now that we figured that out, I am finishing cutting out my last few pieces, and I'm painting in between where the wainscoting and the wall meet, so that when I do put in the trim around the doorway, you can't see the spaces between them. And that is a great way to hide any holes, is just paint it the color of whatever it is that you're making. And those tiny details really do add up. And now I'm just adding on the rest of the trim. I'm gluing down the trim around the doorways, and I'm gluing down the battens. I don't know why I think this is so funny. It's like, it's one of those words that you never really learn. I'm gonna call it trim. Let's call it trim to be efficient and easy. But basically, I like to clamp it. Sometimes I don't. You don't always need to clamp it, but if it's warped a little bit, clamping definitely helps. And this is what we have now. And now to interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a Hershey potty break. Now to finish off the lining on the bottom before I place the floor, I go ahead and paint all the trimming black so that you can't see anything through. And I also do this around the windows as well. And then I take a piece of cardstock and I paint that black. That's going to go into the corner. It really helps to seal in and make it look realistic. Again, it's always the small details that you really see. So I always try to make sure that the trimming looks nice. And then my next step is to glue in the floor, which is always such a rewarding process because it starts to make it look like the room is actually finished. And then I go ahead and start painting the top trim to go along the paneling, or I guess the wainscoting on the side, as well as the baseboards, which I got these plastic ones from Hobby Lobby because they looked cool, but they're really hard to paint. Paint does not like to stay on them even after being sanded with Modpodge. And I originally kind of did this somewhat black wash over the white, which I did not like and ended up painting fully black by the end. But that is how I got those on. If you can tell, this is me desperately trying to keep everything in place so that it doesn't fall. Sometimes you just gotta be creative. But this is what we've created today. So this is where the video would have ended. However, we have a dollhouse emergency. So after I glued on the floor and put the walls on, I noticed a very, very significant warp in my project. And I'm gonna show you guys that in just a second. But basically what I realized was that using only 2 layers of foam board for the base was not enough to prevent warping. So if you guys are making a project along with me, I would suggest putting down an extra layer of foam board to prevent warping, or you can do what I've done in this video. So I bought these at I bought these at Lowe's. I think, or the Home Depot, something like that. I think it was the Home Depot. Any place that you get wooden planks at. I bought these little ones, which I don't know how big they are. I think they're like 3/4 of an inch, something like that. But they were only, I think it was $5 for 8 feet of them, which is a really good deal. It's not that much. I had to buy 2 of them to complete the base for my project. But basically, if you are having issues with warping, it's really not that hard to use this. All I got was this and a handsaw and then some wood glue. Who knew that being a carpenter could be so easy. I'm kidding. I mean, it is easy. What we're doing is easy. I don't know if I could do the other stuff that they do. But basically, I'm going to be taking you through the process of building the base for my dollhouse. Starting in 3, 2, 1, action. I don't know if you guys can see this as much as I can, but my project is definitely warping. I mean, that's a pretty significant warp when you put things on it and they start to slide. That's how you know we have a problem. So that means I am gonna have to figure something out. And so here's my best solution. Okay, you guys, so this is gonna be my first attempt at doing carpentry. So we're gonna see how it goes. I'm going to measure out my project and basically just cut this wooden piece with this handsaw that I got and hope that I can get it all to fit together. So this was a bit of a learning curve for me, as it took me a little while to learn how to use the little handsaw piece and even out the boards that I had. And so I realized you just have to really put some elbow grease into it and cut it out. But I just kind of guessed about where I wanted wood pieces and tried to make it to where there was enough on the bottom that if something got heavy, it wouldn't start warping in the middle. But eventually I did get paranoid because my cat was just really active this night for whatever reason. And I started getting worried about sawdust, and I Googled it, and turns out it's dangerous to inhale it. So I didn't actually finish in this video. I ended up doing it on a different day when it was more safe, where I could put the cat away and wear gloves and a mask. Actually, I didn't wear gloves. I don't know why I said that. But basically, just make sure if you're going to try this that you are being safe and not inhaling everything. But I just continued to measure it out, and piece by piece, I put it together. Somebody had advised me to lay the wood on its side instead of laying it flat. That way it's less likely to warp when you add wood glue, because, you know, we're working with foam boards, so of course things warp, but wood also warps. So when you're working with dollhouses, I mean, warping is going to be a part of it. So anything you can do to prevent it is very much necessary. But this does have me thinking about what I'm going to do for the second layer, because I still have to figure out how to make my project detachable, and I won't be able to add this super heavy wood to the top of it. So I am gonna have to figure that out. I might do 3 or 4 layers of foam board instead of 2, but that is yet to be decided. That is future Raven's problem. Now all that was left was just to put wood glue on, and then to put my project on, weighing it down with some super heavy items. It actually took me putting a weight on to get that part to flatten out. But in the end, it ended up working out and completely removed my warp in my project. All right, that is all the crafting I have for you today. Please make sure to hit that subscribe and like button, because I am still a brand new channel and I only have 7 followers right now. And so every single one of you guys that joins me on this adventure is so appreciated. I'm so grateful to have you here. And next week, we're gonna be going into the kitchen. And I'm really excited about that, because I'm gonna show you my process of making a working door and just having fun with the greens and yellows that come with the Spellman kitchen area. So until next time, happy crafting.